So today is Victory Day in Russia, which is interesting because it's actually VE Day for all of the Allied powers. It's the victory in Europe. It's when the Nazis surrendered to the Allied powers, including the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Belgium, Canada, and yes, the Soviet Union at the time. However, the difference is the Allied powers outside of Russia remember the entirety of the war, starting in 1939. Whereas Russia does not. Russia's history books and Russia's materials start in 1941. And this is because Russia refuses to remember signing the German-Soviet Pact in 1939 with Nazi Germany. This paved the way for the joint invasion and occupation of Poland by both Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union simultaneously. They did this in September of 1939. The Russians literally allied with the Nazis and then subsequently wiped it from their history books on purpose. Russia doesn't remember any of the first 2 years of the war. Check the dates. Seriously, check the dates on their commemoration material. It all starts in 1941, not 1939 when the war started. In addition, Russia doesn't discuss the fact that they were allied with the Nazis. And it even has criminalized talking about it. In 2021, Vladimir Putin signed into law a ban on any public attempt to equate the aims and actions of the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany during World War II. You can go to jail for claiming that the Soviet Union allied with the Nazis in 1939, despite the fact that it is a verified fact. This pact, this alliance, was negotiated by the German foreign minister and the Soviet foreign minister, and it established a Soviet-German sphere of influence in Eastern Europe. It recognized Estonia, Latvia, and Bessarabia as falling within the Soviet sphere. The signatories, the Nazis and the Soviets, agreed to divide Poland along the line of Narev, Vistula, and San rivers. This was a pact the Soviets had with the Nazis to divide up chunks of territory between them by force. The pact went into effect when Germany attacked Poland on September 1st, 1939. And on September 3rd, 1939, Britain, France, having guaranteed Poland's borders just 5 months earlier, declared war on Germany. 2 weeks later, on September 17th, the Soviet Union invaded Poland from the east. And this officially marks the beginning of World War II. Germany and the Soviet Union then moved to take control of the spheres of influence delineated in the secret protocols of the non-aggression pact that they just signed. They amended the protocol to assign Lithuania to the Soviet sphere and adjusted the boundaries they had set for Poland. Poland was carved up and split between Soviets and Germans. Again, they were allied together. They had an alliance. In September 29, 1939, they partitioned Poland between the two of them. Germany occupied western and most of central Poland and proceeded to annex the western provinces to the Third Reich. The Soviet Union occupied and annexed the portions that they saw fit. The Third Reich under Nazi Germany took their parts. And this was an agreement made between those two countries. Also, according to the agreement, the Soviet Union annexed other territories in its sphere of influence. On November 30th, 1939, the Soviets attacked Finland. After a 4-month war, they annexed Finnish territory along the Soviet border, particularly near Leningrad, which is now St. Petersburg. And then the summer of 1940, the Soviets occupied and incorporated Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. They also seized Romanian provinces of northern Bukovina and Bessarabia. So the Soviets were doing the same things as Nazis. They were taking territory allied with the Nazis. The pact only ended when Hitler attacked the Soviet Union in 1941, 2 years later. Until then, the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany were allies. However, you can't denazify Ukraine having a history of supporting Nazism, so that's why they've removed it from their history books. This Russian holiday they celebrate doesn't remember that Western democracies fought the Nazis from the start of the war. The German invasion of Poland, France, Britain, Belgium all declared war on Nazi Germany while Russia was allied with them. Russia doesn't remember its praise for the Nazis in the first 2 years of the war and how it aligned its propaganda to claim they had the same enemies. Russia doesn't remember the mass atrocities committed by both Russia and the Nazis against the people of occupied countries. They use the same tactics. Russia refuses to remember the Lend-Lease program and other considerable Allied contributions to support the Soviet Union when it was forced to switch sides because Hitler attacked the Soviet Union. Up until then, the Soviet Union was perfectly fine being allied with Nazi Germany. And for those of you that don't know, the Lend-Lease system was a system that the U.S. passed that would allow the United States to lend or lease war supplies to any nation that it deemed vital to the defense of the United States. During World War II, this allowed the U.S. to give the Soviets 14,000 aircraft, 7,000 tanks, 400,000 trucks and jeeps, 1,900 steam locomotives, 8,000 anti-aircraft guns, millions of rounds of ammo, 4.5 million tons of food, tens of thousands of rifles, millions of uniforms, including boots, and other portions of cold weather gear. Also, blankets and tents were included. Not to mention all of the communications gear and intelligence the U.S. and Western nations shared with Russia. Without the U.S., Russia's dogwater army would have been fighting the Germans barefoot with homemade bows and arrows. After World War II, Russia refuses to remember the post-World War II settlement they agreed upon that led to the development of the international law, which means that the borders and sovereignty should never be changed by force. They reversed that very quickly, as we all know that once Soviet Union and once World War II ended, Soviet Union started scooping up territories around them, and the Cold War started. Russia refuses to remember the main lessons of World War II that, quote, never again should we tolerate totalitarianism and aggression as a tool of statecraft, because they converted to it almost immediately. Russia refuses to remember the several, and I mean several billions of dollars that Russia received in post-Soviet collapse loans, assistance, and support provided by the U.S. and Europe in 1991 to stabilize your clown show country. Russia may think, and these Russians that like to comment may think, that there was some heroic recovery after World War II and then again after 1991. But the fact of the matter is, Russia only exists due to the good graces of the United States. That was the case in 1945, it was the case in 1942, 1941, and that is the case now.